What would you do if your mother's kind gesture of generosity was met with shocking manipulation by your own sibling? When Aunt Louise decided to celebrate her 70th birthday by giving away her fortune, no one expected the drama that ensued from her daughter Kay's outrageous scheme. Imagine celebrating your 70th birthday by giving away a fortune to your loved ones. That's exactly what Aunt Louise did, spreading joy with her generous heart. But what happened next is a twist no one saw coming. Aunt Louise, a sweet lady who recently moved back to her hometown after selling her house in the Bay Area for over $1 million, decided to live frugally and stay close to her roots. She wanted to celebrate her milestone birthday by doing something special for her family. She sent $1,000 to each of her 14 nieces and nephews and $500 to over 40 grandnieces and grandnephews. Along with the checks, she included heartfelt notes encouraging everyone to have fun with the money and not to use it for bills. It was a beautiful gesture that brought smiles and happy plans to her family. Everything was perfect. The family gathered for a barbecue, sharing their excitement and plans for Aunt Louise's generous gifts. The air was filled with laughter and gratitude. But then, an email arrived that changed everything. Kay, Aunt Louise's youngest daughter, sent a message that shocked everyone. She claimed that Aunt Louise was suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. Concerned, some family members, including my wife, called Aunt Louise to check on her. To their surprise, Aunt Louise was as sharp and lucid as ever. It was clear that Kay's claims were unfounded. But Kay didn't stop there. In her email, she requested that everyone send the money back to her, not to Aunt Louise. She offered to handle all the deposits herself, claiming it would be too burdensome for Aunt Louise in her supposed condition. This wasn't the first time Kay had tried to manipulate her mother's finances. She often talked about her inheritance while Aunt Louise was still very much alive and had previously taken money without permission. This time, it was evident she was trying to pocket the generous gifts meant for the family. Now, we want to hear from you. What would you do in this situation? How would you handle a family member like Kay? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let's discuss. And stay tuned, because up next, we have another story that will leave you just as stunned. Let's move on to the next tale. Imagine running into your ex's new wife at the store, and instead of exchanging pleasantries, you unleash a decade's worth of pain and resentment. What would you say? When I was 27, I'm 30 now, my life fell apart. My marriage with Dan ended after I discovered his affair with Julie, someone I had befriended. To make things worse, our son, just 6 years old, was diagnosed with leukemia. It felt like my world was crumbling. After the divorce, I got primary custody. I had no close friends nearby and my family was distant, leaving me isolated and struggling to keep it together for my son. Meanwhile, Dan and Julie seemed to have it all. They got married and had all the support they needed. I despised them, especially Julie. She's one of those people who hides her cruelty behind a cheerful facade, fooling everyone into thinking she's kind and caring. She even tried to befriend me after marrying Dan, suggesting she could be a bonus mom for my son, as if her presence wasn't already causing him enough emotional distress. The only consolation I had was that Julie couldn't carry a pregnancy to term. She often lamented her multiple miscarriages, but secretly, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. Dan wanted more kids, but Julie couldn't give them to him, and I found it darkly amusing. One day, I bumped into Julie at the store. She started with her usual fake kindness, talking about God and expressing fake sympathy about my son's ongoing treatment struggles. I snapped. I told her that her inability to carry a child was also part of God's plan. I said that every miscarriage she had was God taking back his children from someone who would be a terrible mother. I ended with a bitter God bless and told her I hoped she'd never have a child. In that moment, it felt great to finally say what I'd been holding in. But now, looking back, I feel like a jerk. Was I the asshole? What do you think? Was I justified in expressing my pain, or did I go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And stay tuned for another story that will have you questioning right from wrong. Let's move on to the next tale. What would you do if you suddenly became a millionaire right after losing both your parents? For one person, it's a nightmare they never expected. My parents died recently. I never knew they had significant money. Now, I'm a millionaire who's crazy depressed. This is a complicated problem because I don't feel comfortable complaining about it to anyone I know. Like, I know everyone's parents die, but both mine died within days of each other, and I'm only 35. So, while I'm dealing with this constant depression over their deaths, I also feel some resentment towards them because they apparently won the lottery after I moved out of high school. They lived lavishly and hid it from me. I was working a minimum wage job, and they were telling me to pull myself up by my bootstraps while they were taking several vacations per year. And then, I don't feel like I deserve the money, because I don't. I didn't do anything for it. Even though I've worked hard all my life, I don't feel comfortable with it and almost want it gone. Beyond all this, I know every rational person hears this and thinks I sound stupid, and I agree. I can't get out of my own way. I feel like it's survivor's guilt also. The only money I've spent has been on therapy and a slightly nicer apartment. I've always hated rich people who don't earn their wealth, and now I'm that person, and I just don't know what to do. I can't tell if it's all grief or what. I'm thinking I may splurge and buy myself a new car, still driving my 1994 Honda. I'm messed up in the head, sorry. I don't really even expect sympathy. Because who wants to give it to some rich person who's complaining? Forget me. Edit, just because it's something a lot of people are mentioning, I have a financial advisor. I sort of inherited her along with the account. More importantly, thank you, everybody. You've all been far more kind and supportive than I could have possibly imagined. I've cried at almost every message. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart. One person said you don't have to change your standard of living simply because you received your inheritance. Your parents wanted to ensure that you received their money specifically, so I would honor their wishes and retain the money. Honestly, you could simply invest the money into your retirement. That would lock the funds up long term, and you can focus on living your current life at your own standard of living. For all intents and purposes, it's like the money isn't there in your day-to-day life. And when it's time to retire, you can have the confidence that things will be all right. What do you think? How would you handle an unexpected inheritance in the midst of grief? Share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories like this.